Good morning, and thank you very much. First of all, because everything is so hectic, I just want to thank everybody, especially special thanks to the Hong Kong Design Centre and to the Hong Kong Trade Council. Hong Kong Design Centre and TDC have done a tremendous work together with all these people behind me, so we are able to be quite a lot of Danes here to try to tell you about how we see design and what we do. I started my life in the design world on the political side a year ago, and I thought it was time to change. As Kike was talking about, society have undergone tremendous amount of change, so that was what we were going to do with the Design Centre. So we are actually talking about a Danish Modern 2.0, because we really need the focus. The Design Centre was established in 1978, and the reason for that was that until that the Danish Modern was some more craft things. Then we had industrial designers coming on, and we did all these kind of nice products, and fantastic products were created, very good with the industry. And around 2002, Kike came around with Index and the whole new way of design thinking. So it's not just about artifacts, it's about the systems, it's about strategy. And in the Design Centre, we made something called, the blue one, called the DIN model that was working. And at the same time, we had a lot of young offices starting, and just mentioned 3 of them over here. And by 2012, you could say that what the Design Centre was doing was totally outdated. The designers got the idea from having the design thinking as a whole. So what should we do in the Design Centre? So we started to reshape the whole center in the early spring of this year and found out what is it? What are the needs? How can we actually be important in any kind of society for the designers and for everybody else? And we believe there's 3 drivers for the next 5 years. One is technology. It's technology as a machine, it's technology in biology, it's clean tech, it's everything who has a technology background. The second one is materials. There's so many new materials coming, there's so many old materials that is hanging on shelves all over the world that maybe now is viable economically to use again. And the last one is big data. We deliver data points constantly, and how can we use this? And our problem is, if we don't have designers that will enter into these 3, we will have a society in Denmark that we would not like. Because in Denmark, it's very important that that you are the center. And we need to have designers to start working in these 3 areas. So we will actually have technology stuff that we understand, or we can use, so you don't have to read the book first. We need to have materials that will make life easier, and we need to use all the data collection in a way that is for benefit for the people. Not for the technicians who are doing it, but for the people. So that's what we are looking into. So this is what we call technology. We have a lot of good designers who are already into technology. The first one is just an app for a bank that you can do all your banking with your thumb. This is materials. Materials are changing. We need to get rid of plastic. How can we actually move from plastic into something else? This is just 3 different kind of materials that have changed the game. So the middle one is maybe the most popular one. That's the one that will take the styrofoam out of the circle thing. The problem with plastic, one of them is that it took 65 million years to create plastic, and we don't know how long time it will go before it disappears. Most of it ends up in the Pacific Ocean. So we have to do something. Designers have to step up and start designing for a more sustainable world. Data, big data. The first one is the HIV protein thing, which is actually done not by a lot of doctors, but a bunch of gamers on a website called Folded. It took them 3 weeks to do it. The next one is Watson. That's the IBM computer that won Jeopardy, and you could say Jeopardy, what's that? Is that funny? Yeah, it's quite cool, because that will be on a mobile phone next year, and that means that you just ask Watson a question, and it will answer it in 1 second, and you can do quite tricky thing. The last one is just an app. We use it quite a lot in Denmark these days. It's an app where it actually tells you that you'll be sick tomorrow. So you have to go buy your stuff on the pharmacy because you'll be sick tomorrow. So this is all data things, and I think it's very important that designers start looking at these things, start getting into how can we use it. There's a lot of infographic, but that's not enough. How can we actually work together with a computer specialist to actually get more benefit out of the data for people? The thing we're going to do at the Design Centre is, before we were working a little bit, we were set in the world to work with a small, medium-sized company. We're changing that game a little bit. We would like to work with businesses and designers, but now we also put a third party in. That's research and development, universities, and science. Design and things around design is now getting so complicated that we need somebody who really knows what's going on. So that's why we're now putting researchers in. We're now putting people from Niels Bohr who are quantum mechanic studies. How can that infuse design, and how can design infuse this in new businesses? This is how we'll do it. We'll set up a whole new thing where we gather a lot of information from everybody we know, from the internet, from people we meet, and then we restructure it, and then we have something called change work, where we have actually scientists, we will have business people, we will have people from the public sector, and we will have designers, and they collaborate about getting a lot of new ideas, getting a lot of new products, and when that is left, the change work, it will come out as an external thing out of the Danish Design Centre and can actually be a viable product or a new business. So what we'll do is that we'll change the Design Centre from just being, sort of very official. We'll try to open the whole building. We'll open everything. We'll invite all the designers, and not just the designers, but also the underground, all the ones that is out in Copenhagen, because Copenhagen right now is a very creative city with a lot of young people, but they don't belong to any organization. Now we try to invite them in and see how can we actually use them. And we'll do all these kind of projects. And then what we'll do is that we'll turn the whole center into a communication box. Because, if you can collect a lot of knowledge, if you don't communicate it, then you have a problem. So we'll constantly start communicating. We will not have big exhibitions any longer. We'll have smaller exhibitions that will change every week, every fortnight. We have invited our good friends Index to be in our building, and Danish Fashion. So we'll be more organizations in the building who will actually put a totally different flavor to design. We'll cross-work, we'll work on our own, but the whole idea is that we have a vibrant house where we sort of call rock and roll. We'll start actually making collections and materials. So we have a materials collection, we will have a technology collection, and we will have a data collection. And we will not go out and buy an American nice fitted materials thing and they can pull it in. We'll build our own, because we'll build it in sustainable materials. We'll build it with the people who are involved in the materials. And we'll do that. We have a blog right now on materials. We'll duplicate that blog for technology and for data. So we'll have about 40 to 50 specialists delivering knowledge into the center on these things. Then we need a network, and that's why we need a lot of you. It's called the Danish Design Centre, and I think maybe we should scale down the Danish a little bit and say, the world is not about Denmark any longer, it's global. So we need everybody. We need to connect with the universities, design schools, design brands, designers, businesses all over the world who have an interest in design to find out how can we solve the problem we will have in the futures with a design input. So it's very important that we start building up a fantastic network where we will have things going on from all over the world. So what will the future be? We'll change, we'll cooperate, we'll connect, and we will learn. We'll communicate, and we'll infuse, and we'll be a very, very open organization, a very, very open building, and then we will have fun. I think it's so important that you have fun while you're doing this. And if you don't have fun, you will never succeed. So this is just a little glimpse of what the Danish Design Centre will be in the future. So we're actually saying design that makes sense. If it's not making sense, it's not us. And I think that It will start on the 1st of January, then we start rebuilding the whole new center. And so if you come around to Denmark around April, we should be ready for boosting the whole thing. You can have a glimpse more of Danish design if you just go to the other side of the hall where we have the exhibition. And on Sunday, we will have the smashing thing. The longest catwalk in the world will take place on the Avenues of the Stars. And it's with a Hong Kong design and Danish design in a mix. So the whole idea for us is to, instead of being into your ivory tower, we want to get out on the streets, into the urban fabric, be around people, because that's where design should be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nille. Would you please stay on stage here?
I will.
Stay with me. Kigga, would you please come up? We're going to have, we have time for just a few questions and answers. And although we all know that we're going to head for Denmark in April, right? Okay. Okay, so let's see if there are any questions. Don't be shy. This is your chance. Well, while we're waiting, I know it's early. You know, this is early for designers, right? Okay, so, yeah. Well, I've got a question. How do you plan on still keeping the excellence and the design aesthetics to fold into what you're doing with social innovation?
Oh, sorry. I mean, that's part of a question for our schools, for instance. And I think one thing that's really, really, really important in this growth and ever-growing definition of design is that we keep focused on the center. And to me, at least, the center of design is the ability to give form. So I'm a fierce fighter for the fact that we at our school should secure that our young designers are able to draw by hand, and that they know the difference of how this looks and how it doesn't look, and how a person stands and doesn't, and all that stuff. So I believe that what we have to train, and what has been in danger for years, is the ability of a designer to give form. If we don't bring that to our cross-disciplinary teams, we're not going to bring anything. So.
So, Kigga, the applied aspect of design will not go away to actual products, and so, okay, and we can blend it with services. Great, thank you. Well, let's see if we have a question out there. If people are still, yes, Vivian.
Hey, good. Come up here.
Yeah, I have a question for both of you. Since you talk about there will be a lot of changes in the political sense of designer society and things like that, are there any things to do with the education as well? Because back to 30 years ago, the disciplines are very strict. You know, there are war between us. But right now, we are putting down the wall and we have become a big, big family. And will that as well affect the changes of the education systems?
I think the education system, you will still have fashion designers, you'll probably still have product designers, but I also think you will have someone who is what I call crossover designers. So they probably have a totally bachelor in a different area, and they will enter the design world, because I think, of course, we need designers who are very specific, who have, you know, the traditional form, but we also need what I call the crossovers to inspire and to ask the right and stupid questions to their colleagues.
Great. Okay, we have one question here. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to ask a question. We are at the Business of Design Week. I really think it's a very good time to change the role of a design center, to change it to social implications of design. How do you see the connection to the business end of design?
To me, design is business. It's big business. And everything we do has to be a business. And I don't think there's anyone doing anything for fun. You know, you have to do it. You have I said fun. You have to have fun while you're doing it. But what you're doing is that we have to establish new companies, new businesses, both in the industry, but also new design companies, because the future will ask for other services that we haven't figured out what is, because it will come. So we're all about how can we make a viable business with design and all creative people,
Okay, we're all for serious fun, right?
We are.
Okay, we have one more question here before our break.
Hello. My question is very simple. I'm a student in creative media of City University. Is it necessary for, I think that big data is very important in the future. And is it necessary for a designer to learn a lot of something about big data?
I think big data is so much around us, so you need to know something about it. Personally, I also think that a designer should be able to code. Instead of learning Italian or Russian, maybe they should take a year of coding. That is just another language. So I think you have to, you cannot avoid that technology is here, data is here, it's not going away. So you better, join it and shape it in a design-wise way.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Kiga.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have one more question? Okay. All right. I think we should take it while we can.
It's an easy one. How do you make sure to keep your Danish touch with a global definition of your design?
Yeah, what is the global touch? How do we keep the touch of Danish design?
How do you keep your Danishness?
But I think it's part of it's to me it's a little bit like how do you keep yourself in a relationship? I mean that's not that difficult. So I actually think that it's about when we work together with other people, we of course have to sustain ourselves and come into the relationships as a whole, and I think Danish design is doing that, as all other kinds of design from all over the world, and then we work together, so it's not about merging into one thing, but staying together as different entities. And I think that actually works.
Thank you, Kiga. One more. Oh, this is great. Okay, people woke up. This is wonderful. Okay.
Hello. Hello, I'm Lise Coirier from TLMAG. Just a question. I remember discussing with you, Neil, about the education level in Denmark. And that's not so, the situation in Denmark is not so good, actually, in terms of competition in education. Now, how are you going to manage, in fact, to put in perspective the young people engaging into design education towards, for instance, the Hong Kong universities? Are you going to create more bridges in the future?
I think we will have we'll try to exhibit twice or 4 times a year young designers, who are either finishing their study or just finished. And then we'll reach out to all the ones, which is quite a big talent pool, who don't have a design education, but who's actually doing design. Does that answer your questions? Sort of? I'm really sorry, I have to meet the
Crown Prince.
The Crown Prince, yeah.
It's okay.
And you don't be late for that. See you.
Well, thank you.